got 10 minutes to talk about World War II and your part in it.
As soon as I finish this.
Okay.
We sailed on I think it was called during the war, maybe the West Point, but I think it was the America before the war. You know,
The name of the ship, you mean?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It changed during the war, and then it went back. And I think there were about a division on the. And by that time, I was assigned somewhere along the way, and I don't remember where. The Medical Detachment of the 275th Regiment of the 70th Division, Pine Tree Division.
Okay.
But anyway, that's where we shipped out of, and
Okay.
we had about 15,000 troops on that. So we're just sitting there on the deck, going through the Straits of Gibraltar, and then we're getting ready, and we're getting the gas masks ready and all that kind of stuff, because we're going to be at Marseille shortly. And so we got Marseille, and we unloaded. Then we loaded into 40s and 8s, 40 and 8s.
What are those?
Those are dinky little boxcars in Europe, bumping along on up to, and I can't remember, Tim, I don't think it's Saarbrücken. I don't know where Saarbrücken is.
Saarbrücken?
Yeah,
Okay.
Germany, or Strasbourg, and it's probably more likely maybe that we wound up in Strasbourg. I don't know.
So you're up on the Rhine and it's winter.
Yep, and the Battle of the Bulge starts. You know, there's one part of the Rhine, they crossed that Rhine, not
Okay.
where we were,
Okay.
but up here. So we had to go up there, and that's where we met the combat time. When we got where we were going, this
Okay.
is the Battle of the Bulge.
Okay.
Our little piece of it on the south flank.
South flank.
At Philipsburg, and I think what's his name in that little book calls it the Battle of Philipsburg.
Okay.
And so we're going down the road. You know, this has all been organized, and so we're going down the road, and I'm the medic, and I'm maybe attached to platoon, not platoon, but company C or I or something like that. Doesn't matter. And I'm going down the right side of the road
Okay.
as we go forward.
Okay.
Because I didn't have a weapon.
Did they have it? You didn't have any weapon at all?
I didn't have a weapon. No.
So is it fair to conclude that the medics typically were not armed?
We're not armed. That doesn't mean that some medics didn't carry on.
Yeah, understood.
But you had a thing on you.
Right.
I think,
Which stopped all the bullets.
yeah. Now, before we had started, before praise the Lord. Before we had started down the road, we had dropped all of our gear in a field. One, boom, boom.
Okay.
All that gear is lined up in that field.
Yeah. Okay.
We had our overcoats. We kept our overcoats. So we had those big, heavy, and I only got rid of mine 2 years ago.
Yeah.
I had it here. I think I got rid of it. I gave it to whatever. But heavy, you know, and thank goodness. And
Can
so,
you hear any guns or?
Not right then.
Fairly quiet.
Not right then. It's
Okay.
quiet.
Yeah.
And then we're walking down this road, and I'm not in the lead company.
Okay.
I think maybe not in the lead platoons or whatever. I can't remember
Right.
how far from the front.
Was this daylight?
Yeah,
Okay.
it became night, but it must have been the latter part of the day.
Okay.
So they let part of the early part, and I wasn't too far from the front because I was right up close to the pillbox when they started to fire, and one of the people in the area for which I was responsible, he got injured really bad, and eventually they were firing, and if that pillbox had been organized in such a way that the guns could go right down the ditch,
Yeah.
everybody would have been killed.
Right.
Because you go right down, but it was not.
Yes.
Thank God. But some people got it anyway, of course. And this one guy, this is what I can really feel bad about, Tim. This guy and another guy, he was really, really hurt bad, and I don't know whether his legs had been partly shot off. That was true for the next guy, but he couldn't follow. He couldn't come with us at all.
Yeah.
And so I stayed with him for a while. The captain had already told everybody to retreat, to leave, and I didn't go with everybody else. I stayed trying to do what I could
Right.
for him. Not being smart, Tim. I was a kid, 18, 19, something like that. And I did the best I knew how.
Right. So this is still daylight when you're trying to help this guy?
No.
Or, okay,
By
so
this time, it's
dark.
It's dark.
And it's real dark, I
And they're
imagine.
sending the flares up
Yeah,
so that they can see what's going
right.
on.
The Germans are.
The Germans
Yeah.
are. And, but I'm in the hole, and they can't get to me, I guess.
In the ditch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess they can't get to us. And I'm doing what I can for this guy, which is not very adequate.
Is he exposed or is he in the ditch?
He's in the ditch.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm right there with him,
Yeah.
and they're shooting the flares up,
Yeah.
and they can't get to
They-
us, I think. And I'm scared to death, of course, but in the meantime, you're claimed by what you're trying to do.
Right.
You forget the rest. But then you realize that time to go. You can't stay there forever. But there's a culvert that goes through here. It's fairly sizable. And I'm not wanting to expose myself
No.
by jumping up and running over that
course.
when they got the flares as well.
Right.
And if they're paying attention, they see this guy jump up and
Right.
they can pull the trigger faster than I can run across and get in the other side.
Right.
And so I went through the thing,
The culvert.
the culvert, about 2/3 of the way. It was so full of sand
Yeah.
that I couldn't go any farther.
Yeah.
I was stuck.
Yeah.
Well, I was able, I didn't have to stay there the rest of the war, but I was able to back out the back way. And then I was going to have to jump up and go over.
Yeah.
I'm scared to death, of course. And but then finally, if they weren't shooting flares now, they knew that they'd pretty much defeated they'd sent the troops back, the American troops and all that. Maybe they weren't paying attention, so I jumped up and over into the ditch on the other side without any calamity, and went all the way back. However,
Now, excuse me, there were two guys you were helping or just the one guy?
just one guy there,
Okay.
but I came to another guy on
Uh-huh.
my way back.
Right,
I
okay.
was maybe a quarter of a mile or maybe less than that, from the headquarters unit,
Yeah.
which would be, in this case, the medical, and this guy had almost both legs shot off. And I've never forgotten these two stories, Tim, because you feel bad. Because I might not ever have been able to, but could I have put him over my shoulder and carried him back not too far to the medical station where the doctor was? Or the doctor wasn't there, I don't think, but finally I did the best I knew how, and then I left. And I've never forgotten that, Tim. And I want to cry now. Because he probably, and the other guy too, probably were two that didn't come back.
Yeah.
And but anyway, I left there and went back to the unit
Where they had regrouped.
where everybody had regrouped.
So you're basically out in the front of the front lines, helping these guys on your way back to get back into the front lines.
Yeah. Because everybody else had come back, and I stayed first with the first guy, and then with the second, went back on my own, and then this is nighttime now.
Right. Do you remember when you came back to your own lines from having been out in the night in front of your own lines? Do you remember much about that?
No.
Was there any danger of getting shot by a sentry that thought you were a German because you were basically out in front of the very front lines?
I doubt if we were that organized,
Yeah.
Tim. We went up the tune, and then we were spread out on the top of the hill. I'm listening to whomever's giving the orders. I don't even remember who, and so we were all scattered. This company on top of that hill.
Right.
All I know is we went up there and had to dig in.
Okay.
And so I'm digging into, and it's a hard dig.
Yeah. The ground, is there snow on the ground?
Yes, indeed.
Okay.
There's snow.
So-
Snow on the ground.
Good chance it was frozen ground.
Well, I guess I didn't think of that, but once you get down a little ways, it should be less frozen.
Yeah.
And so I got it down enough I could get into the hole and be down below, And then it wasn't too long. I don't know, Jim. I had one ration. We all just had the one ration, and we were up there 3 days. And it's hard for me to say 3 days now. That's what's always in my mind, 3 days. And nothing happened, I think, for a good while. And then the German tanks came in, and they were starting to clear out the way so they could come forward, which meant they had to deal with any troops on the hill.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when the 88s started coming in. So the 88s started coming in on this hill.
Yeah.
And I'm here to tell you, and you've heard this story before, that hole that was so hard to dig went down another foot faster than you could say Jack Robinson. It went right down, man. And I'm huddled down in there. And then during that 3-day time, or when they were first coming, you hear the cry medic. Well, then you jump and go, of course. I mean, you understand that, and I understand that.
And the 88s are still coming in.
I can't remember.
Yeah.
I went down and I did what was needful. I don't even remember what the problem was now. I did the best I could with what I had. And then ran back to my hole. And so for 3 days, mostly in that hole. On that hill, they sent a lot of 88s in, and they'd hit the trees, and they'd bust to pieces, and then you'd hear the shrapnel going pss, 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 as it breaks up and goes, if it hits a tree and shatters and whatever. But that's when you put your head down and I can't remember the time limit, but they weren't too far beyond us for too long. Because pretty soon they came back, and they were driven back, and then that's when they came up after us, and the one guy was taken out on a stretcher. That's the one I had gone down to see, and then we all came down, and then we all got to go. I think most of us went in the barn to sleep. I took my boots off, and the next morning I couldn't get them on. And the only gangrene, I just had a little gangrene on my big toe, where it gets black. And they know what that means. And so I get in the truck, go back to Paris. I'm in the hospital in Paris for a week maybe, or something like that. And turns out using the same toilet facilities that guys who had hepatitis were using. And so eventually, we went from there to Whitchurch in Britain. I'm getting about ready to be sent back to the unit. War wasn't over yet.
Right.
And I was sick, and I didn't want anything to eat. And that was the beginning of the hepatitis. And so for a month, I was didn't eat or anything. That was about a month.
Wow.
So eventually, I was able to go back. By that time, the war was over. And I went to, I can't remember the name of the city, but it's way down the south of Germany. Oh, shoot. And there's a relationship that was special where we went to because we were near one of the death camps, I think. But eventually, our unit was stationed at Camberg, Camberg. Anyway, we moved up into, I don't know whether that was Alsace or Lorraine or in Germany, and it was about 44 kilometers from Frankfurt.
Okay.
And here's Tony Fargione, and I got a nice picture. I may have shown you that. Here's Tony Fargione from Brooklyn. He's about this tall. He's taller than that probably, but and I've got the picture. Tony's holding one of the small ones in his arms. And he and I are working with these kids, about 20 or 25 kids. And we were playing games or doing that kind of thing with them. And the folks, they were able to figure out that we weren't there to mess with the kids or harm the kids, the Germans. Yeah. And then in due course, we were getting ready to go to the Pacific.
Yeah.
And then...
This is mid-45, probably.
Going to Japan, and then the war in Japan ended. And
2 September 1945. According to your service record, you departed the European theater 4 October 45.
Yeah. Well, that sounds reasonable.
But you're in Camberg.
Yeah.
And for 4 or 5 months or so, and then what happened?
I think we went to Britain.
Okay.
And I think we came home from Britain, not from France.